Here we go. Welcome to this session today, Raising Confident Children with Javier Orti. I'm Amy Moser, and I'm Self-Worth Associate and also the host for today. We have a really great session planned here. Javier and I work together at his company, HelpingKids. And I have to tell you, he's just an amazing person, probably has the epitome of self-worth that I've always seen in him. And he founded HelpingKids like 10 years ago now. And he has that mission in the forefront of everything he does about raising the new generation of kids who can learn these new tools and who can benefit from self-worth, really. And before HelpingKids, he was in the corporate world for 20 years, but he was also called a visionary, which I think is very true. He came out of there and created HelpingKids, which does life coaching for kids. And so working with schools, working with private clients, doing seminars, one-on-one group work, and recently for the HelpingKids website, he's been doing all sorts of podcasts and YouTube, and he's just been expanding blogs everywhere. So he has really gotten his expertise out there, but he has coached hundreds of children and has some tools that he has created that work extremely well. He has the highest feedback from anyone I've ever seen. And he is Spanish. He lives in London for 20 years right now. He's been living there. And he also has two girls. And he is a family man. He loves running, swimming, and rock climbing, but he doesn't get that much time to do them. He is also just the kind of person that you can just contact him about anything that you're having trouble with, and he's really open to talk to you. So without further ado, is my friend and colleague, Javier Orti.
Wow. Top that up. That's I thought we agreed to set the standard really low so we can over-deliver on the expectations. Anyhow, we'll do our best. So thank you everybody for taking the time. I'm really, really happy to be here. And yeah, it is true. There's one thing that I just love, and I just working with young people and the families. It makes me happy. It makes me who I am, what I am, and what I just found, and I think we found, is that when we started this journey 10 years ago, I didn't know. I did all the training, I did all the stuff, but a lot of the things we learned on the job. And those are the things that when I talk to parents, that tends to resonate the most. And what I do is I talk to the parents as I talk to the kids on a simple, basic way, which I figure if I can understand it, and a 6-year-old person can understand it, it's in the right track. So with that mentality, that's what we have created. And what is very important for us is that you understand from our experience, what's behind, what's the feeling, what's the idea, what's going on in the kid's mind. So when it comes to the strategy or the technique or the ideas, you can say, okay, this is how it works, and this is why it works. Yeah. So I'm not going to say much more about me. I think that really what we want is to give you as much as we can in the next 55 minutes. So we crack on, do you think, Amy?
Yes. Okay. I'm just going to bring up the presentation here. Can you see that there?
Yeah, it's working well.
Okay. So today, we're going to talk about giving children the confidence to succeed. And just to give you a sense of HelpingKids, that the mission, which I kind of messed up when I first said it, is supporting a new generation of parents and children to achieve their true dreams and happiness. And these are a few of our credentials, the different things that we've been working on. Javier is a hypnotherapist professionally and a coach with lots of different qualifications. Especially with the Marissa Peer method. He has been training people just this morning about that online. And I am a positive intelligence coach, and I'm a Self-Worth Academy associate, which you probably knew that by now. And so how do we support parents at Helping Kids? Like I mentioned, we've got a podcast out there on the Helping Kids website, YouTube. We have got many blogs on there. Also, like our services of one-to-one coaching for parents and children. We do seminars and work with teachers sometimes. We both have worked within schools as well, mostly private schools in the London area, which is where we are both located in Ealing. And so I'm just going to skip about the housekeeping. That is just to say you can get our presentation by emailing us if you'd like that. And now I'm going to hand it over to Javier to describe some of the tools that we're going to talk about today.
So basically, our purpose when we put together this presentation is for you to get one idea that you say, well, it might work with me, it might work for me or for my kids. So that's as much as we want. If you get 2 or 3, that's obviously fantastic. And the way that we're going to do this is we're going to start with understanding the feeling, what's going on in the kid's mind, yeah? When they are not working hard, when they are getting aggressive with the siblings, when they are kind of giving up easily, what's going on? And then we suggest the strategy. And when I work with young kids, they obviously have heard, most of them have heard the idea of strategy. They don't know what it is really. So I define it as a possible solution to a problem. It's a possible because it might not work, but and it's something that we can evolve. Yeah. And there's only one way of knowing, which is by trying, really. And we want to share with you 3 techniques that we use day in, day out. We use with the kids, we use with the parents. The first one is the idea about effort, not outcome, and how do we go about that? The second idea is the path of choice. And I used this first when my youngest daughter was like 4 years old, and I've been using it ever since. She's 14 now. And the third one, which is about reflective feedback, is what we call best, better, how. Yeah, how do we give praise and feedback in a way that we found really, really useful? So if we start with the first, do you want to cover the?
Sure. Yeah, so we wanted to just really gather your outcomes today. I mean, we figured that there are some parents here or grandparents even that have some questions and have maybe something on their minds right now that they want to get some help with. So we do this in our seminars pretty often, where we just open up the floor to find out your outcomes, basically what you want to get out of today. And I did promise this when we did a Facebook Live that people could bring those today and that we would find out those and be able to help them with what specifically they wanted to know about. So I could stop sharing at the moment and just find out here. You can also put it in the chat if you'd like to, but we'd like to know, like, what would you really like to get out of the session today? If you're a parent or a grandparent or someone who works with kids, let us know. Anyone?
This is where the silence happens. Nobody talks.
We will wait for a few minutes because I know sometimes it takes a minute to think about these things. John.
Anybody?
Well,
John.
while people are thinking, the question that's probably uppermost in my mind is how to support parents. So I am a grandparent, so I'm in a position where I can support parents in a family setting, but also with friends who are still the parents of younger kids, how best to be supportive to a parent.
Great, thank you, John.
So how to be supportive.
Yeah, how to support parents. And we have in the chat going to bed or a bath without a fight. Okay. Then we have from studies, encouraging her son with studies.
Excellent. This is really good. Excellent.
Anyone else? Feel free to put it in the chat.
Fantastic. Well, if you have the idea or a question, please put it on the chat or let us know, and we will include it. Yeah, but there's a pattern in the idea of how to get them, really is how to get them something without a fight and an argument, without having to raise your voice. Is going to bed or having a bath or doing the homework, how to do it. Yeah. So I think that we will cover part of it, but then I will come back to it at the end and I will wrap it up. But just from that perspective, I will make sure we cover that. Yeah.
We also have had a couple come in just as you're talking. One person, I think it's Ana Luisa, just about her child has a attention deficit disorder, and COVID has thrown a whammy into that for that self-managing focus and controlling anxiety. So I'd love to get tips on that. And then from Theana, we like to know how to best support kids dealing with their emotions, especially anger, and also how to get them to do a task without repeating 10 times.
Okay, so the part about the emotions, we haven't prepared a presentation for that, but we will cover it. So we will make sure we're going to maybe speed up a bit through the part of the confidence and make sure that we cover the other points as well. Yeah.
Yeah, we usually find like when we get the outcomes that like we'll also during the time find something that applies to it. So it's quite a creative process. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to bring my screen back up again. Here we go.
So I invite you, as you are listening to these ideas, I invite you to think how this idea could work for you and for your child. Don't go into this will work or not. Go say, how could I make this idea my own idea? It might be how we describe it. It might be in a completely defined area, but just keep yourself asking how. So the first part that we were talking is the presenting problem is never the problem. As simple as that. The kid who doesn't want to do the homework, the kid who is arguing, the kid who is anxious, the kid who throws a tantrum, the giving up, that is never ever the problem. That's only the representation of what's happening inside them. And what's happening could vary, but overall there's a few handful of ideas that it's important. Number one, massively, fear of disappointing the loved ones. I'm not good enough. I don't want my parents to be disappointed. I hear this day in, day out from kids. If I fail my 11 plus, or if I'm not in the top set, or if I don't do this, or if I don't know how to do my homeworks, my mom will think less of me. My teacher will think less of me. I will be less. And that's a huge part of what they're experiencing. The second part is, well, if I try and I fail, then I'm just confirming I'm not good enough. So I'd rather avoid it. And the third part is, but listen, when the teacher asks a question, they always, and the important question is they, the important word is they always have the hand up, and I don't. They are smarter than me. So anything that it makes me feel like the odd one out is dangerous because it's unfamiliar. Now we know that the they doesn't exist, that some kids raise their hand one time, some kids raise their hand and others. But I see them as a complete, as a group, and they are doing better than me. So I feel left out, I feel less than, and that is tremendously worrying. So that fear of failure, it's 100 times more powerful than the reward. That fear of failing exposes my vulnerabilities and potentially my love. And it's really important when we pass the behavior and we go into that emotions, that's when we start getting the conversation really to a meaningful place with the young people. Yeah. So do you want to move on, Amy, to the next one?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a concept that I picked this up in my corporate world, and then I adapted it for working with kids. And we call this the confidence metrics. So if we start from the bottom right, yeah, what we said is that's when kids come to see us, and that's when problems happen. So imagine on the axis, on the x-axis, what you have is how does the kid, not me as the parent, but the kid perceive that the task is, how difficult the task is, okay? So the task could be reasonably difficult or reasonably easy. It's never going to be a breeze for a kid, yeah? And on the vertical axis, what we have is how confident do I feel as a kid to achieve that task? So again, being quite simplistic, that's the way I like things. I can be not very confident, or I think I can do it. So if we start from the bottom right corner, that's when the problems, the meltdowns happen. As a kid, I think that this task that you're asking me to do is difficult, and I don't have much confidence that I can do it. Yeah, and you might say, but he did it last week. It doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter. That is not granted. Doing it one time, maybe two, most of the kids think, well, I just was lucky. So what everybody wants is a magic wand that takes me from the bottom right to the top right. And I don't know you, but I haven't found many magic wands in Amazon lately. So it just, unfortunately, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. So we have to work around it. Yeah. So the first thing that we do is we create, as educators, we create a task in which, without the confidence increasing, because let's be honest, the confidence is not going to change overnight. My confidence about one task is not going to change, but maybe I can do a different task, a smaller task. We chunk down that task into something that is more achievable. Now, the trick on this one is never overestimate what the kid feels comfortable doing. So somehow he's finding that sweet spot that he says, maybe I can do this. Maybe I can do it. So maybe if you give a kid, this is a silly example, but it does happen. These are your 20 math questions for you to do now. It's just so big, and I know I'm gonna get something wrong. And so, okay, so why don't we do 3 today and 3 tomorrow and 3 the day after? Yeah. So how can we chunk it down into something that is more manageable? And all we want to get, remember, it's never going to be, yes, I can do that. All we're going to get is the maybe. Maybe it's good enough. If we think that maybe he or she feels he can do it, we're on the right track. From that, what we do is we just kind of push the envelope, and we kind of repeat. There's a concept that we call how many times till. This basically says that we all need a number of successful repetitions before I feel confident I can achieve that same task. Yeah, we play a number of games to identify the kids' preferences, but just go with it. Sometimes some kids need, and depends on the task, some kids need 2, 3, no, normally 3 or 4 is the minimum, 3 or 4 successful repetitions, and the kids say, okay, yeah, I think I can do this. Other kids need more. Other kids need more, kind of 6, 7, or 8 times to repeat that thing before they feel comfortable. And sometimes they even need 9 or 10 times to do it. Depends on where they are in the task.
And
That's
also,
okay.
you sometimes will get a kid who will tell you, well, I need 3 times to feel comfortable. And then after the 3rd time, they will. So
Yeah,
because they told you that.
exactly, absolutely. So sometimes they will tell you how many times they need. Sometimes you just keep doing it until you see that they are taking that task more happily, more readily. And then we're in the top left corner. Yes, I think I can do it. Again, don't expect that, yes, a fist pump type of moment, a high five, and of course I can do it. That's not what we're aiming for. We're aiming for that kind of saying, yes, I think I can do it. And that, again, is good enough. And from that moment of, I think I can do it, then we create new experiences. We push the envelope little by little to take us to our original task. Yeah. Now, you say, well, that's quite laborious. And yes, it can be quite laborious and it can be quite time intensive. But the moment that you take your kid through one of these journeys, the second one will be easier, and the third one will be easier, and the fourth one will be easier, because that is already building into the confidence. That's already telling them that, Well, I didn't know how to do the 3 times table, but I learned them and now I can do the 4th. Or I thought I couldn't make friends in the playground, but you know what? Now I have 3 or 4 friends in the playground. So the next task will always be easier, but we may have to go through that process over and over again. Every journey that we do here is building the confidence. Now, what I want to mark here quite clearly, because there was a lot, and this goes into the pattern that I saw in the questions, is I cannot make my kid confident. It's not my job to make them confident. Yeah, my job is to create the experiences, the moments, the support for them to become confident. As I said, I don't have a magic wand to create something on them. Yeah, but I can create those experiences and that feedback for them to be able to do it.
I think also we talked a little bit in our Facebook Live about how do we get self-worth to come out in a child, because as we've talked about today, you know, it's already there. Like, it's inside of every child, there is self-worth.
Yeah.
So we're looking at ways to help that come out.
Exactly. And again, one of the we talk about this on the Facebook Live is I never see as a kid who has or doesn't have confidence or has or doesn't have self-worth. They have it and they display it many times. They just don't display it others. So my job is not to create anything that is not there, just to help them notice it and help them understand what's happening when they use it. Okay. So the first part, so just keep that strategy in mind for anything. That's how we create that all my sessions I structure in that way. Is I avoid that thing that is making them afraid and worried, and I find that sweet spot in which they said, maybe I can do this. And then we just build it up from there. Now, the first thing that we said is, let me ask you, if your kid goes to play, and maybe your kid doesn't go play football or is not, but you follow me with this example. Your kid plays Sunday football in their local club. Yeah, you leave them there to play, you pick them up, they have a game. What's the first question that most people will ask? And the question is, what's the score? Did you win? Yeah. And the second question most of the time is, did you score? Obviously, if he or she is not the goalie. If they have a spelling test, if they have an exam, what is the question that we ask? And so Anne is mentioning, did you have fun? Brilliant, excellent. How did you do? That is so. A lot of the parents that I see, I wish they had your approach, because without realizing, we put in so much focus on the outcome. And what we are doing is we are teaching kids to say, well, I have to score goals, I have to be popular, I have to get 10 out of 10 on spelling. And if not, then what happens with me? My mom and my dad is going to be disappointed. Yeah. So Ana Luisa, you mentioned, what did you learn? How did you do? Fantastic. That is exactly the right approach. Who did you help today? That's fabulous. Yeah. Just helping them notice the effort. And when we say the effort is, and the kids are not, by default, they will not go there. Yeah. So when we ask them, what did you do well? What are you proud of? They say, well, I scored a goal. I said, well, no, what is that you did? You were confident. You didn't want to do it, but you still played. So that's good resilience, that persistency. You were determined to do it. Your concentration was great. What abilities they used and they displayed, and overall that might have an outcome or not. But what are the abilities that they displayed? And that's, for me, is absolutely critical. There is this game that I play with kids with a set of Jenga. It's a kind of I call it the domino challenge. With the Jenga blocks, they set up different shapes. And when they are doing that, obviously just to kind of tip over like a domino game, I just say, wow, that's great concentration. You're doing really well. And then they make a mistake, everything comes crumbling down. I said, wow, what do we do now? We do it again, Mr. Orti. Excellent. That is persistency. That is, so you help them notice what abilities they have, because they have them. They just don't know it. Yeah. So really, and what I said is, okay, the outcome is important. Unfortunately, we live, or fortunately, I don't know, we live in a world that the outcome is important. We have to get a job, we have to earn money, we have to get a decent grades. So that's okay. But what we say is 80-20. Yeah, make sure that when you're giving them feedback, you focus on the effort. At least 80% of the amount of your feedback, your comments go towards the effort, and 20% on the outcome. Yeah. So so that for me, it's a fantastic point. Now, how can you do this on your day-to-day? So just whatever they're doing. So a big question that we have is, my kid needs to concentrate better. Okay. And you talk to the kid and you see them concentrating. They just don't know what concentration is, how it feels. So you bring it up to them. Wow, great concentration. Wow, very creative in that way. Wow, your handwriting on this text is fantastic. Or look at the capitals that you use, at your punctuation. Whatever it is that they done, make sure that you remark it to them. Not too much over the top, because if you give too much praise, then it becomes undervalued. But just kind of snippets of information and refer it to what is that they did just then. So it has to be time relevant. Okay. Let me chip in with any thoughts that you have if I'm missing anything. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I've heard people also refer to that as, finding the good. Like we as parents have this kind of tendency to want to pick at the thing that's wrong. So if we're finding the thing that's right, then it's more like it feels better for everybody, because when it's coming out of my mouth, I know for sure as a parent, when I'm saying, hey, you did a really good job with that handwriting, that feels better than saying, well, let's correct your T crossing or something.
Yeah.
So it feels better for both. And then I think it's kind of a way that it then generates into probably self-worth for both the parent and the kid, because you're starting to feel that sense of unconditional worth, really.
Yeah. And I think I will talk more about this on the third technique, but I was working with this kid on Saturday. We're playing these games, and he said, "Oh, Mr. Orti, it's about learning from my mistakes." I said, "Yeah, that's good, that's great, but what about learning from what you're doing well?" And he went blank. He said, "What do you mean? It's not working?" I said, "Well, no, it's not working yet, but you learn, but you're doing things right, aren't you?" He said, "Well, I guess I am." I said, "Yeah, so what is that you are doing well that you need to keep doing?" And that gives you a much better platform to address the things that you're not doing so well.
We like that yet at the end. So we'll add that to a lot of things that kids say, I can't do this yet. I'm not able to figure out this math problem yet. So it makes it a different thing when it's got the yet.
Yeah, it does. Now, the second technique is, this is the one that I use with my daughter, and I keep using it. We call it the path of choice. Yeah. Now, one thing that if I was to say one of the single, and I don't want to call it issues, but behaviors that I see on parents most frequently, is that they take ownership for everything that the kid does one way or another. Yeah, they take ownership for the kids doing the homework. They take ownership for the kids tidying up. They take ownership for this. And that puts a lot of stress on the parents. But at the same time, it allows the young person to say, it's okay. I mean, mom will come here and shout a couple of times and she will eventually do it. Yeah. Or it creates a dynamic that is not very constructive. So what I recommend, this is a very, very simple way in which we give choices to kids. And that's what happens with young people is they work in a very single-minded way. It's A or B, period. Yeah, is this way? Why is this way? Because that's the way I always do it. And they forget that they have choices. So stopping and putting perspective into what's happening is really important. Helping kids understand that they have choices, that there are options, is really empowering. So I use this a lot with homeworks, for instance, but you can use it with anything. So come in a moment in conflict before you start shouting or getting angry or pushing them, or because normally what we do is, come on, honey, have another go, try it more. And as we repeat and repeat and repeat, we get more frustrated and eventually shout. So before that happens, you say, and when, let's call it, Tommy doesn't want to do the homework. You say, okay, Tommy, that's fine. You know what? It's okay. I just imagine that you have two choices here. I mean, there's millions, and this is literally how I talk with kids about it. Yeah, there's millions of options, but let's just take the two most simplistic options. Yeah, there's two options, two paths here. On one path, and always tell the one that you don't want them to take first. Yeah, on one path is for you to continue doing what you're doing. Not putting effort, not doing the homeworks, not tidying up, not eating your soup, not going to the bath. Yeah. And you know what? We've been through this so many times. You know what's going to happen. So tell me, what's going to happen if you keep in this path? Now, most kids will not answer that question, but I can tell you they will answer it in the head. Yeah. So what's going to happen? So mom is going to get upset. And what's going to happen? And we're going to end up angry. And what's going to happen? And we're going to be mad or upset with each other. With the homework, well, I'm not going to get that right. And what will the teacher think about you or say about you? Also, well, he might not be very happy. And what's going to happen? And we fast forward those consequences. Now, in my experience, even if the young person doesn't tell you or articulate what's going on, they will always create worst case scenarios that you can ever say. Yeah. So they're very conscious of the consequences of the behavior. And it's okay, but you know what? That's okay, because in that choice, in that path, you don't have to change anything. That's the easy path. You don't change anything, you know what's going to happen, and that's your choice. The other choice, and the other choice is the new path, the new option. What could happen if you were to choose differently? Well, I might get some right, some wrong. You might be more pleased with me, or you might be happy, or I might be more proud, or I might get better grades, or whatever it is. And again, we help them understand the consequences of those choices. Yeah, in a very simple way. Two paths is enough. Don't give them more than two options. If they are a bit older, maybe you can give them three, but that simplistically is yes or no, basically, or the other way around, no or yes. The old path, the old behavior, what's happened, the new path, the new behavior, what happens.
I think this skill, it's quite great because it invites that collaboration and kind of brainstorming, and you can take it creatively if you want to. And, you know, kids always love games like that. Like with my own kids, I think, you know, being able to maybe make a mind map out of it or draw something that represents it as well. I use a lot of drawing in my work, and they really respond well to be able to kind of create their own options here. They're kind of seeing it that way, is that they're getting a bit more control over it from their point of view.
Yeah, and that is very important, because we are empowering them to make decisions. And for me, that's fantastic, because and this is a technique that it requires us as parents to be in a state of mind that is I can cope with this. If he chooses to go into the old behavior path, that's okay. There's these consequences that we talk about, and he will just have to go through those. Yeah. If he chooses the new one, there will be these consequences and he will get that praise that he wants. And that's okay. Yeah. And as parents, we have to be ready for the young person to take either of those paths. It's their choice. But my experience tells me that number one, more times than not, they will choose the one that we want, the new behavior. And if they choose the old one, and that's the second idea, is more out of pride than anything. And the next time that you do it, or the third time that you do it, they start getting the idea and say, yeah, this is quite silly, isn't it? I know I have choices and I choose to take the wrong one. Why would I do it? So they will eventually learn by themselves. Yeah. Now, I just have to make this, when I used it with my daughter, it was working fantastically well. And one day, I remember I was saying, it's okay, Anna, there's two paths. And she just came and said, I know it, and I'm taking the wrong path, and I know it. It's okay, fantastic, it's okay. She already saw my tricks by then. But that's okay. But it just says that sometimes, you know what, sometimes they just have to take the wrong path, and they just have to say, that's fine. There's no point to get angry.
And it sort of opens you up as to some risks as a parent that they might not have the best time with it, but it's their choice then.
And they understand the consequences of it.
Yeah.
Right. So very simple. You stop before you get angry. You summarize the choices, the option into the old path and the new path. You fast forward into the old path, what's happening. You fast forward into the new path, what's happening, and you put the decision back to them. Is their choice. And again, with the choice comes the consequences. Yeah. And the consequences have to be measured, have to be relaxed. And sometimes they will take the wrong path, but they know they're taking the wrong path. And that's the important part. And most of the times they will take the other path, the positive, the new path, and they will see the benefits of that. Okay. Good. Best, better, how. So praise is one of the most important things. Now, what we find is underpraise is as dangerous as overpraise. So this is something that we work quite a lot, Amy and I, on how do we praise kids in a way that is constructive, that is positive, and it doesn't create this coziness too much or this comfort zone for them. And this technique comes from a very good friend of mine and of Amy, who is a professional golfer, a really good coach. And he identified that when he was training people, it was just that, by the way, I don't play golf. This is what he told me, yeah? And so they hit the ball and they start moaning about everything that they did wrong. And he was there saying, well, it wasn't half bad. It was pretty good. But all your energy is focused on what is wrong. So he devised this idea, and his name is Danny, by the way, and that's a very, very good friend of mine, about the best, better, how. I think he doesn't even remember he did it, but I copied it. So we call it best. So from any situation, especially if it's a difficult situation or if it's something that we can consider a failure, yeah? The game that they lost, the exam that he didn't get the results that he wanted, the rejection letter from the school he wanted to opt to, whatever it is, but especially if it didn't work out. So, okay, what are the three things that you feel you did best? Yeah, what are those three things? And it's very important, the process and the ratio is 3-1. What are those three things that you've done well, that you think you've done best? And they might say, well, nothing because I lost the game. I said, no, you did something. Well, number one, you show up for the game. Number two, you show determination, you communicated with the friends, you didn't get too upset until the end or whatever it is. Whatever it is, and again, focus on the effort versus outcome. What is that they did well, yeah? And do it quite recently. So when my daughters play hockey, I do it after the game. What was your best, better, how? Yeah, and they get really used to it. I do it at the end of the day. Now they're a bit older, but I do it at the end of the day with them. What is your best, better, how for today? And it's really important that we give them permission. So by me being proud of what I did, I'm giving them permission to be proud of what they done. So that's the thing that went well. What is the one thing, and this is really important, what is the one single thing that you could have done better or more of? Okay. And they don't have any problem filling this one up. They say, well, what I did wrong is, I say, no, it's not that you did wrong, it's what is that you want to do better. What is really important is the one thing. Because if you say, well, I have to communicate more and I have to run faster and I have to do this and I have to, it's too much. It's too much for anybody, let alone for a young kid. So what is really important is to allow them to say, work on one thing. Take one learning, 3 things you've done well, fantastic, keep doing those. One thing that you can do better. And the how, it gives them the plan. So it's not only that I need to work more on my spelling, is that how is what I'm going to do them every day. Yeah, I'm going to practice it. I'm going to ask mom to give them to me in a random way, or I can do them whatever way it is. Whatever how it comes, it's good. Yeah. All we want them is to have an action plan. That is the most important bit. Now, if you remember, when we talk about the, I was telling you about this young client that I was seeing, and he was saying, well, I'm learning from my mistakes. And I said, well, yeah, but what is that you're doing well? Well, I'm organizing the blocks here or there, I'm persistent and doing this. And the better was that he was putting the pieces too close together. Yeah, so they were not falling. So, oh, okay, so I'm gonna put them a finger size away. I said, well, try it. And it worked very well for him. So what I really want them to learn is that self-feedback, that self-analyzing of what's happening and how I can improve. Yeah. So Anita, you mentioned that we can ask them ourselves. If you're referring about the path of choice or about the best, better, how, I'm not sure.
Oh, I think it's best, better, how, isn't it? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was referring to what is the one thing, because we beat ourselves up about a lot of things. And how about, just taking one thing and just like you're asking kids, we can apply that to ourselves as well.
Absolutely. Like Amy and I always do it every time that we have any work together. We always finish, and Amy doesn't let me off the hook. Amy can say, okay, Javier, best, better, how?
Yeah, I'm fairly vicious about, like, we got to use our own tools. So yeah, and I think, like, when I use it with my kids as well, sometimes they will ask it to me, well, Mom, you did like 3 presentations today, what's your best, better, how? And they like to know that I'm doing it too. Yeah. That I am open for them to ask me those questions. So it's not just me always asking them, they can ask me, and I go through some of the same stuff too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And when I was in the corporate world, that's a few years ago, but I had my team and we could go to see the clients. And after a presentation with the clients, I could say best, better, how? And you can see this kind of, there were some of Harvard, Cambridge, and Andrews graduates, and quite, so, Javier, not again. The first time, the second time, and after a few times, they were coming in the car back. They were saying, okay, Javier, best, better, how? Because they realize how much learning they're getting from it. And it feels good. So you can use it anytime. But what I always said is, if you're going to use this technique, you go first. You lead that. They say, well, here is my best, better, how. Yeah. So you're giving them permission. And don't challenge what they say. Little by little, they will realize what is meaningful or not, so they will get better at it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Annalisa. That is absolutely spot on the message. You say is introducing active gratitude. Yeah, self-gratitude. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Excellent. So I'm just conscious there were a few topics about managing anxieties and managing anger. That the presentation wasn't steered towards that, but I don't want to not touch base on that. Yeah. So in terms of managing anxieties, managing the emotions in general, it's not a million miles from what we are talking. It's about helping kids take that ownership about the feelings. They see like, well, this is happening and it's happening and that's it. My anger is coming, my emotions are coming, my tears are coming. And I said, that's okay, that's fine. But you know what? Who controls those fears? And so your thoughts control your feelings and your feelings control your behavior. So if you can control your thoughts, then we can start talking about it. And it's really important to empower them on that. And I never talk about controlling. I don't like the word control. I like the word managing. So it's about saying, okay, number one, in the heat of the moment, never do anything. Yeah. So Amy, I'm going to bring the before, doing, after, if that's okay.
Yeah, we just have, we have to close in about 5 minutes. So.
Okay, so I'm gonna talk faster than a Spaniard can do. So basically, the idea of before, doing, after is like in the heat of the moment, there's nothing you can do that is going to change it. They are highly emotional. They are ruled by the subconscious and emotions. Nothing that you say is going to work. So what we say is think on 3 stages. Before, so if there are things that are triggering them that you can spot them, you prepare for that. You say, you know what, when this happens, when your friends happen, when this happens, you don't get the best of you and you get upset. What can we do about it? And the important bit is to have that conversation and let them come with ideas. They might not have any ideas, but you have that conversation. Now, don't hold your breath. That's not going to change anything, but you have that conversation. During, damage limitation. When the tantrum happens, when the anger happens, damage limitation. I stop it from escalating. If that means that you have to make sure that they're safe and go elsewhere to not trigger yourself, do it. If you have to go and help yourself to a cup of tea, do it. But stop, do not engage in that moment because you will only perpetuate that negative behavior and you're not gonna get anything out of it. And after, it's about having that conversation again. So half an hour after that moment, you go back and you say, that didn't really work, did it? What can we do? That means you as a kid and me better next time. And as you do this, you're creating that conversation, that bonding, and that solution. And I'm gonna shut up now, sorry.
And we use these tools and just the idea is, you'll probably come up with one thing from this presentation that really appeals to you. And we'd suggest that you try it a few times and reflect on it to say, is it working? How is it working? What can you do to improve it? You might even try best, better, how on that. And that's the thing about some of the things that you gave for outcomes. I think what Javier was just saying about being in a good place for dealing with your kids, I think that also has a tie into self-worth. So if you feel like your self-worth is topped up, like that you feel like, I have an unconditional friendship with myself, it's easier to try these things. And they respond also better from that example. So there's a lot of ways that you can bring self-worth into this, but I guess in terms of what exactly the things you were asking about, like how to go to bed without a fight, or how to deal with emotions, how to stop 10 times asking to do something. I think like overall, try some of these tools on those things, creative application to it. And, in your study of self-worth, I think you'll find that what you do to change in order to have that unconditional friendship is going to affect your kids in a big way.
And as you said, Amy, just give one idea. I mean, as Anita, you were saying, what's the one thing? What's the one thing that you can take forward? So you have those, you can choose one today, one tomorrow, one the next day, or you can choose one that really suits you. And then what we really like is when people come and say, well, I took that idea and I changed it to this one. And it's fantastic, great, make it your own. This is just the concepts and ideas, but when you make it your own, you're going to fly and your kids are going to be so much well supported.
Absolutely. Great to see all the feedback coming in. If you would like to contact either of us, please feel free. We also can get you the slides if you email me. And also just wanted to point your attention to, I am presenting also tomorrow at 3 p.m. CET, 3 p.m. GMT, on positive intelligence for parents. And I'd love to see some of you there to learn a little bit about how you can look at that from your own standpoint as a parent. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming. And so pleased to see that you're finding the tools helpful, and we really hope that they work well for you. And just thank you very much for your time today. Oh, and also I forgot one thing to let you know. We are going to be in the chat. Sorry, coffee chat. And I'm going to put that into the chat. So just bear with me 1 second while I get that. I'm going to bring this down and I will put it into our chat, basically the link, the Zoom link to go to the coffee chat.
And while Amy is doing that, can I just remind you that the final session today, the keynote on the magic of self-love and authenticity, I cannot say the word, authenticity, with Andrea Pennington, very well-known TED speaker. It will be in just under 8 minutes from now. So time to grab a cuppa and join us in, what's the room number?
Number one.
This one.
Number one.
Number one. Yes, this one. We'll just close this out and start it all over again.
Oh, okay.
Excellent. So yeah, the link to that is in your chat now, to both the coffee corner to see Javier and ask some more questions, and then to the next session. So we thank you very much for coming.
So